go home. Good, good, 59.
Hey, it's Rosa59 here. I'm going to show you guys how to make this guitar pick box that you can store your favorite guitar picks inside, and you can download these free plans. To make your guitar pick box, you can use whatever type of wood you like. I'm just using a scrap piece that I've got here, and it's about 1 inch thick and about 3 inches wide and 3.5 inches high. And once you've got your template, you can cut it out, or you can use spray adhesive and spray the back and stick it on. I just cut it out and traced out my image, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out at the bandsaw. We're going to go back to the disc sander, and what we're going to do is going to take our top and our middle piece, and we're going to smooth all these out because the bandsaw will leave some of the jaggedy edges from the rough cut. So we're going to go ahead and do that. For sanding the top, it is too dangerous to do it at the disc sander, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do it by using the palm sander, or you can do it by hand. All you're going to need is some double-sided tape, and stick it to the bottom of a place somewhere, and then just go ahead and sand it. You're going to take your middle piece and you're going to trace out the area in the middle that the picks are going to go into, because we want to remove that area. And then you want to drill a small hole, about 1/8 of an inch hole, and then cut it out on your scroll saw. And if you didn't have a scroll saw, you certainly can use a coping saw to do the job. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our bottom piece, and we're just going to put that aside for now because we're not going to use that right now. So now you just want your middle piece and you want your top. And now what you want to do is you want to find and make sure that everything all lines up, because I know sometimes if you flip it the other way it's not going to match up. So you want to make sure everything matches up perfectly and in line the way that you want it to be. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the top and we're just going to flip it over here for a moment. Add some double-sided tape. Once you've added some double-sided tape, we're just going to peel that off. And then we're going to put the top back on. Just kind of line everything up, which is a little bit tricky because I know the tape really gets sticky. So you want to make sure you get everything all perfectly lined up and everything. And I think that looks pretty good. So we're just going to push down on it. I know some areas may not look 100%, but we can always go back over to the disc sander afterwards and line it up. So now that we've got it all nicely down, now what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over. So this is actually the bottom part now. And if you still got your template, what you're going to do is you're going to put it back on top, and you'll see I made a cross reference area from what the middle was. And now these sort of depends on what type of magnet and what type of swivel dowel, or how big a dowel you want to use, or mechanism you want to do for yours. But I just kind of roughly estimated just right about here, and I'm just going to push down hard on it. And then for the bottom part, I'm just going to go roughly about here, and I'm just going to push down on it. Then I'm going to take this off, and then you've got your two little marks. Now that you've got your two little marks, what we want to do is we want to pre-drill the holes. But we don't want to go all the way through, because this is our top, and we don't want to show our holes. So I roughly went ahead of time and put a 1/8 drill bit in here, and just put a little bit of tape around here, just a rough guide, so that when I do stop, I'm just slightly going to hit the top part, just so I know where I have to drill to line up the magnet from the top part and everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill those two holes in. And then once you've done that, just going to pull this apart. It's a little tough because it's double-sided tape. And as you can see there, I slightly got my holes. For adding a magnet at the top, you can use any magnet. I just happen to have a magnet handy, and it was a 1/2 inch diameter magnet that I have here. I just got it at Home Depot. I think it came in a pack of 4 or 8 or something like that. Nothing heavy duty. And I just had to use a 1/2 inch Forstner bit, and I just used my drill. If you have a drill press, that's the way to go. But I just wanted to use my drill, and I just slowly went down just to get to the right depth. And once I got to the right depth, I just checked every so often with the magnet, and I just went just slightly a little bit lower, so that when you put the top on, that way then when it catches it, it will be nice and tight. And you gotta also remember, you gotta leave room also for the epoxy, because sometimes when you add glue in, sometimes it tends to push things up a little bit. So we just want to make sure the magnet is nice and flush when it's sitting in. For the bottom part, what we're gonna need to do is drill a hole of 19/64, and you're just gonna drill that all the way through. And I'm just using here a shelf pin, and it's the glass one. There's actually 2 different types. There's just one that comes like this without the plastic part, but we want the part that comes with the plastic. So I think it's the one that says for glass shelves, and it's just a simple shelf pin, but I thought this would be a great way of using it for the pivoting motion for the lid. So it'll just be glued inside, and it'll just sit nice and tight on top. And now we just have to drill the hole for the top piece. Now for the top, we're going to drill a 3/16 hole all the way through, and it'll just fit like this on top. Now as you can see, it does point through quite a bit, but when I resand the top, I'll just sand that nice and flush with that metal part, so that will be. So now it's pretty much ready to go there. All we have to do now is add our little washer in for the magnet. So for the top, you're going to drill a 5/8 hole with a Forstner bit, and I used a drill again. And I just used 2 number 10 washers, and I just doubled them up here with double-sided tape. That was just a little easier to check and see how it is. And I just drilled down just to make sure everything is all nice and flush. And now you're just ready to try it out before we glue everything up. And it works really great. And you don't need a strong magnet, because obviously if it's too strong, they're going to have a harder time opening it. It's just a nice little click, and it's ready for glue up. Alright, now for your glue up, we're going to glue the bottom on. So I'm just going to use some wood glue here. Doesn't have to be fancy. So I'm going to take bottom here. And I'm just going to kind of line it up as best as you can. Okay, now I got the one clamp on. And I'm just going to slowly go around here. Just make sure, watch as it moves, because it tends to move a little bit on you. Just going to put one right up here also as well. There we go. And you literally can have not too many clamps. And I just want to check and make sure and see how it's doing. And we got a little bit of squeeze out and it's looking all good. So for gluing up your washers, your swivel, and for the magnet, I just use Gorilla Epoxy and I just mixed it up and I just put it in the holes and let everything sit in, and I just used some water to clean up because some of the epoxy got on it, because you want to make sure that's off. And now I'm just gonna let it dry overnight. I just added epoxy to the pin and I just made sure nothing went on the bottom, because if you put in the clamps and the epoxy touch the bottoms, then you're gonna have a sealed lid, so you want to make sure of that. Be careful, and just put a tiny bit, and I just put some clamps on, and I'm just gonna let it sit overnight to dry. Once you've taken the clamps off, you may have to do some sanding around the edges. You can use sandpaper by hand, or you can go ahead and use the disc sander and give it a nice sand all the way around. Then you want to take some sandpaper around the edges, and you want to knock down the edges off. You can use about 150 grit sandpaper just to knock all the edges down and make it nice and smooth. And then once you're all done sanding and everything, then you want to go ahead and apply your stain. And then once the stain is dry, you go ahead and apply 3 coats of your clear coat, and this is a type of clear coat that I used. And this is what the final product looks like. And then you've got your very own guitar pick box, and you can put in your favorite picks, store them, and ready to rock out wherever you go.